We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing districts, June 19th, 2023, 9 a.m. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. We're all here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Right.
Before I make the call to the public, I just want to recognize we have with us Jason Whining, Navajo County Supervisor, and also CSA President for our organization in Arizona and CSA, and also Craig Sullivan. Welcome. Call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to redirecting staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for future discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Do we have any emails? Thank you. And I do have some calls to the public forms, two of them for an item on the agenda, and one for call to the public. Gail, this one.
Yay, Gail. Oh, so nice for so many people to come to my today. Good morning. My name is Gail Castricone. I am the neighborhood advocate for the Avenue B and C Colonia project. If you have ever wondered why I come to the Board of Supervisor meetings month after month and year after year, it is because I have dedicated my life to the revitalization of the Avenue B and C Colonia. I want to give people hope for better days ahead in their neighborhood. Band Trailer Park is a nightmare that is never ending. I hope all of you took time to read the notes from our meeting with the county staff on May 23rd. The property complaint, they say, was more about the property being a nuisance. The ban is far beyond that. It is a death and destruction business terrifying our neighborhood. This is a humanitarian problem. In your own words, the Yuma Sun quoted October 16th, 2022, that Band Park was unsafe, had unsafe conditions, dangerous to human health and public welfare. A dangerous place to live, rapid deterioration. It is the worst than in 10 years, from 10 years ago. Also, your words also from the mission statement, you said, Yuma County government is dedicated to providing customer-focused services to enhance health, safety, and well-being for the future of our entire community. Unfortunately, we were told that this could take years to be resolved, if ever. The county and city continue to use their resources to control the constant crime in the park. Fifth Street is the gateway to the Avenue B and C Colonia neighborhood. First impressions are formed when you encounter them for the first time. People that say Fifth Street, especially property, are in disbelief that this kind of living is acceptable in the United States. They feel fearful enough that my daughter's baking business suffered because people were afraid to be in our area. She now has to deliver her cookies, which is expensive because of gas prices. The mom of a young daughter has to continually call the sheriff's department at night because of gunfire. The elderly widow lady that has owned her property for well over 40 years loves to sit in her pretty front yard, but is now afraid of the gunshots also. In closing, I want you to know that many people are praying that this problem with the band park will be resolved in a timely manner. People's lives are at stake here. John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for their friends. God bless you, God bless America, and happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Gail. And just for information, staff is continue working on that. So, staff is continue working on that area, so thank you. Anybody else from the public that wishes to address the board? For those of you for that rezoning, it'll be moved up after we go through the consent agenda. So,
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remind everybody, there's a large crowd outside looking at the screen over there. If any of you, any of them, wants to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda and may not have been able to get in here, please do so right now. Because, you know, if you're here for that item, you can wait. But if you're here for something else and you're just outside here, please come over.
all right. I'll leave the call to the public open, and we'll move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. Any proclamations, appointments? None? Okay, we'll move on to, we have Honorable Jason Whitney from Navajo County Supervisor presenting and CSA President, and also Craig Sullivan with Director of CSA doing a presentation.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Appreciate you having us here today. As was mentioned, my name is Jason Whiting. I'm a Navajo County Supervisor and I have the honor of serving this year as this year's CSA President and working with the organization and outreach that we all collaboratively get to do together, and really value and appreciate that. I wanted to thank each of you for your involvement. It's kind of nice to come to a county where I look around and I know most of your faces. I came from before being on the town side of things, and the city and towns and going to the league is a wonderful thing and they do a good job, but it's hard because there's a lot of people, and being able to come together and feel like you actually have a united voice was difficult at times. But I found that not to be the case with the counties. With a much smaller group obviously helps us out, but it's much more personal, and your involvement's noticed and it's certainly appreciated. Your voice matters, and you've continued to be a strong voice on behalf of the counties, and so that collaborative effort is greatly appreciated. So I also wanted to thank Supervisor Pancrazi. She sits on our executive board, leadership inside of CSA, and does a wonderful job. Has a very compassionate and caring voice, but a strong voice that represents the people that live here. So thank you for your leadership and being willing to serve on that. Joining me today on our team is Craig Sullivan and Jacob Emmett. They're here with us. That'll have a little bit more to share with you about some of the work that's been done so far this year as we've worked together to unite our voices around some of the county issues that are going on here in the state of Arizona. I'd like to, with your permission, of course, turn the time over to them to be able to do that, Chairman. But before I do, I wanted to remind you, we have the CSA Summit that's going to be coming up. It's actually in Coconino County there in Flagstaff in October. Would like to make sure to remind you about that, put it on your calendars. It's an event that's really important because that's the time that we start talking about next year, you know, and preparing for the legislative session if they ever end this one, so that we can go ahead and be prepared to have a conversation with them and try to help make sure that they understand what's happening in our areas and bringing our voices together. So that's actually October 11th through 13th in Flagstaff. and really look forward to being able to see each of you there. And sincerely, thank you for what you do. I know it's not easy, and in this climate, it continues to be harder, but you're willing to stand up, to be a leader, to be a voice of the people, to represent the people, and to serve on their behalf, because that's the role. The role is to serve and represent, not to take the honor and to be ourselves, but to represent the people that put us into office, and you do it oh so well. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for having us here today. And if okay with you, Chairman, I'd like to turn the time over
Go
to
ahead.
them.
Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to see you today. I'm Craig Sullivan with the County Supervisors Association. I really appreciate this opportunity to stand before you. As Mr. Whiting mentioned, our purpose today is simply to stand before you and provide our association report for the work that's been done over the course of the last year and start planning for the next year. I did provide to you a document that contains an obscenely large number of slides that you can review at your leisure. I would like to go through some of them just to give you and your constituents a little bit of a sense about what we work on. And as we go through that, you'll get a sense of what we're doing as an association on what we call capacity development, what our research and analytic program looks like. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about the legislature as it tries to wrap itself up. But as we begin, I just do want to talk a little bit about what the association is for folks who may not know. The County Supervisors Association is a collaboration of the 15 counties. We're a nonpartisan intergovernmental office, and we're basically developing research and information to support supervisors and then operate as an intergovernmental entity with the state legislature, the federal government, and state agencies, which you all know very well. We do have all supervisors in the state on our board of directors, but I do want to acknowledge Supervisor Pancrazi, your leadership on our executive committee. Thank you for all that extra time, as well as the service on our legislative policy committee to provide your insights into our policy direction. And Mr. Lyons, you as well for serving on our legislative policy committee, and Mr. Chairman for stepping up and chairing our Medium County Caucus. And so Yuma is very well represented in our organization, and I want to thank you for that. It really makes us a better partner with all of you. Kind of moving into some of the report, I'll start with capacity development and information and then go into research in the legislature. But just in sum, and I know there's a lot here, but what this breaks down is the education program that we had over the last year, bringing in elected leaders, state agency heads, and professional folks to meet with you and roundtable issues that are relevant to all 15 counties. I do want to take particular note of the affiliate organizations in orange. These are the professional organizations that counties participate in, where we benefit and we support and they support us as it relates to major issues that affect you. This is the Managers Association, finance directors, engineers, planners, and goes on. It really creates a strong collaboration among counties to get out of our silos and talk about solving problems together. And then on the left, I just briefly listed some of the key appointments that we have as an association to represent counties, things like the PSPRS Board of Trustees or nominating appointees to the PSPRS Board, the Court Commission on Technology, Governor's Water Policy Council, other things where we're just trying to strengthen the intergovernmental partnership. We want to spend a little bit more time on our research and data initiative. This is where we are collecting mountains of data from any number of sources across government, compiling them, creating platforms for visualizations, and adding that information to how we do our job. And ultimately, it's to support local decision-making and the advocacy that we do over at the Capitol. Our database is built to over 4 million data points, and it grows every year. And when you look on our website at some of our key tools, you can see how that materializes, our county revenue dashboard, our county encyclopedia, and we're continuing to build that out. But a few key initiatives that have been occurring over the last year and will occur as we go forward. We're building out a document related to the history and tools related to the county expenditure limits. Many counties have issues with the expenditure limits. We're putting together a package of information to better inform you all as it relates to it. We are spending an enormous amount of bandwidth on the public safety pension system, largely to make sure that we're watching decisions to protect the investments that counties have made, and that there are not steps back that put those financial resources in financial jeopardy. That's our mission, is to protect the investments that we've made in there and make sure the beneficiaries are paid. That's an ongoing effort. I serve on the advisory committee for the Board of Trustees, and that's been a critical partnership that we've had. I also want to highlight the work we're doing on probation officer issues. We've been building over the last couple of years of all available data as it relates to the probation function in order to better understand it, better partner with the court system and the state on that function, and give you all better tools to understand that nexus as well. The courts are very interesting because they are a separate branch of government, but they're funded by the state and the counties, and we just have to get a better understanding on all of those items so we can partner better in that area. I do want to focus in the middle on workforce challenges. This has been a huge issue among all counties, and I know you know it well. But we, in addition to the work that we're doing with county managers on sharing information, we did get assigned to a legislative committee through PSPRS to look at recruitment and retention problems in law enforcement, and since it was the legislature doing it, also fire. And so we are on a little work group with those entities to look at that. Early on, we recognized that there was a need for better information, and so what our team did was start interfacing with the Arizona Board of Regents, and the Board of Regents was kind enough to see the problem here and put some resources towards a survey and research program that's occurring now that we are helping facilitate and manage. And so you see the partners that are all involved, and it runs the gamut from looking at best practices to interviewing leaders in these functions, to interviewing potential candidates and folks that are already working in these roles. And so we're hopeful that this type of data will better inform decision-making going forward. Because as you know, the legislature is always struggling, just like we are, on how to better recruit and retain law enforcement, fire, and detention in the county space. I should note that this does not include detention, and that is something we'll have to look at separately. This is basically the resource and work plan timeframe for those items that I just listed. They're all ongoing, but we'll be providing to you a status report when we get off the summer, and when we have our CSA summit in Coconino County, we'll determine how to proceed on these items, and we'll be adding some new ones to them as we roll going forward into the next fiscal year. So talking a little bit about the legislature, so we're on track to have the longest session ever if they continue the way they're doing this, where they likely will reconvene at the end of July. That creates any number of issues. Largely for the counties, it's about how we implement new laws and when those are effective. So we're just continuing to compile all the information that has been passed, get that out to the counties to focus on implementation. But the situation's still open. It's still an open conversation, but most of the work has been done, and I'll talk a little bit about some of that. So counties are very closely tied with the budget. You know that better than anyone. What the state does with their budget affects you all locally. This year, the budget did get wrapped up in a decent time frame, early May. Obviously, there was various posturing items that went in place that always happen. This year was different because we had split government for the first time in 15 years. But ultimately, lawmakers recognized that what they had was a lot of one-time money. What they didn't have was ongoing capacity for ongoing initiatives. And so what they focused on was allocating all of that one-time money. And you can see it here. And I know it's a little bit of a busy slide, but I'll break this down a couple of the key numbers. The two biggest buckets of one-time were $260 million allocated to an income tax refund for taxpayers with dependents, and $2.25 billion in one-time investments across government, across local entities, and other interests. And you can see how those are broken down here on the left. Overwhelmingly, it went to transportation projects, K-12, housing and homelessness projects, but they spent a mountain of money one time on any number of items. And we've sent out a document that hits all of the key county touch points. What we did on the next slide was try to map where transportation, water projects, and local distributions are, and you can really see how they go across all the state. Now, we've provided a spreadsheet that breaks down each county for you as well. Most significantly here in Yuma County, 95 needs improvement, and that's where just north of $25 million were allocated. But this is what happens when you got a lot of money and you want to allocate it. And very importantly, they asked members, what specifically do you want to put in your communities? Now, the problem with doing a budget that way is it was difficult to get after big problems that have ongoing consequences. And we had 2 items in that space, so I want to break those down for you. And they're on this slide, the probation officer salary piece. There's been an effort of late by the legislature to have the counties pick up more of the state's responsibility for probation. And it's been kind of a push and pull. The courts have to work with the county, they have to work with the state. This year there was some new money, or actually money put in the budget that's paying for raises already extended to probation officers. And there was some language that we were very concerned about that would have shifted ongoing costs to the counties. We got that out of the budget, but what's still left undone is how the state is going to, on an ongoing basis, pay for its share of probation officers. So an environment where there was a lot of money on the table, this conflict between the the courts and the counties and the state is unresolved, and we really do need to find a path to solve this for this important function. I know the probation folks need to see resolution to that. And the next item I wanted to talk about is, it's very small there, but the EORP debt payoff. This is a legacy commitment, contractual obligation that the state and the counties have for former elected officials. It's a closed plan. It's gone through the courts. It's a contractual obligation. We put on the table a strategy to pay that down in an expedited fashion and save the taxpayers about $670 million. It would have cost the state, putting up front, about $400 million to do that, but the long-term cost would have been massive. Because of the way they crafted the budget, where it was really just about direct member asks, big problems like this didn't find a way on the table. And so we were a little bit disappointed about that, because in the big picture, it would have been a huge benefit. But in this context, it wasn't something that could work. So we'll have to keep working on that debt payoff. As you know, we've all been trying to pay off those prior legacy debts. Now we'll transition a little bit into just some bills. This is the bill package that our board asked us to run. We took 4 bills into the process. We did find out that the governor did sign House Bill 2669, which was brought to us by Yuma County, and of course all of the counties endorsed it. And this deals with biosolid applications and some of the issues associated with it. It does create an incremental improvement in the situation, but there's more work to be done. And I want to thank this board, Supervisor Pancrase, Supervisor Lyons, your work with Representative Dunn and others, and our team, Jacob Emnett, your team, with Alejandro Figueroa. It took a ton of work to get this moving. I just want to thank you for the partnership on that. We were pleased with the outcome, but still more work to be done. A big part of what we do is to focus on reactive advocacy, and this is just all the bills that come into the process that touch county operations. How do we get guidance from you on how we work with lawmakers to that end? And this is an area where I can't thank you and your staff enough for working with our team, Robin Hilliard and Jacob Emnett, to make sure we've got good input. The relationships you all have with your legislators pays huge dividends in this space too, as we work to amend bills that we have concerns with, or just specifically oppose and defeat bills that we're not able to fix. But it was a pretty good year in that regard, because I think as most of you know, the governor set a tone when she came in about, okay, this is where I am. I'm looking for bipartisan types of policies. And as you know, a lot of bills that have gone up to her, the governor has vetoed. And so what that's really led to, and appropriately, is for folks trying to put in place permanent policies to find a way to work together and to work out issues. And we found that to be a very productive environment for us. We did have several bills that went to the governor that she vetoed at our request and other people's request. You can see a list of those on the right. We are substantively done with the session. They met last week and really got the last items out of the legislature. We do anticipate them to come back, and as long as they're open, there's potential for new stuff. So know that that's the case. But we are trying to transition into implementation, and this slide shows you just some of the key policy areas that we worked on this year and some of the bills that came out. None of them are particularly dramatic. They're basically just general operation items. And we'll get a summary of all the bills that touch county operations to you as soon as we can. That should be out probably by early July. I did want to highlight elections because it's been an ongoing conversation. We saw over 119 election bills introduced into the session this year. I think about 34 of them got to the governor. She signed one. And so there's a lot of noise in that space. Not a lot is making its way into law. And there's good reasons for that. There's strong differences of opinion about what makes good policy in the election space. The governor does have her election task force that's in place, and we anticipate that recommendations will come out of that. But I want to commend the recorders and the election officials and our friends over at ACO for all the good work they've done to bring fact and good information about what's happening in the counties to this policy conversation. Because as you know, whatever's passed at the state level, the counties have to implement. And so we have to make sure that things make sense and that they are operationally sound. I'm in Yuma. I should talk about water. I know we hear from you all the time about that. Not a whole lot in terms of water legislation this year, but there have been a lot of resources put on the table. Supervisor Lyons, you serve on WIFA, and so I'm sure your phone rings regularly about the importance of water augmentation. We did see this year that the $330 million that was supposed to be added for water augmentation of WIFA, a lot of that was earmarked for projects that I'm sure are well-intended, but it's not for augmentation. And so we do have a list for you that can show how that was broken all down. But we still need to focus on bringing in more resources into the state. I'm serving on the governor's Water Policy Council, and so I want you to know I'm available to you as we go through that. The first meeting will be next week. I'm on the Rural Water Committee, and I'll be reporting to you what the conversation is and taking your feedback in that space as we go forward. So I take direction. Please.
Most of Yuma is priority 3, so don't let them cut the heck out of priority 3 water.
This I know, and since I'm meeting with La Paz after this and then Mojave, I'll
Yes,
get heavy
you do.
doses
Yes,
of
you
it
know that,
as I
right?
head up
Yes,
the
okay.
river. Nobody wants stuff moving off the river.
Okay.
But I just want you to know this is a priority for us to engage in, whether it's legislative stuff, work groups, monitoring what's happening in the situation, and partnering with our leaders who are on WIFA.
Craig, before you leave that,
Yes, sir.
anytime I hear about priority rights, I keep thinking, well, they work when you have something left to distribute. The fact is, if this water keeps diminishing the amount, the volume, it won't matter what right you have. We need to make sure that our supply of water is steady and stable so that in reality you can exercise those rights. Otherwise, if the water isn't there, it won't matter which rights or how old your rights are.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that, and I appreciate Craig bringing that up. We did have a little bit of a cut. Not all of it was cut as far as that overall amount that was supposed to be put back into that fund for that additional long-term water augmentation, and they were earmarked. But we had a little bit of a reprieve with the weather this year, so we've got a little bit of extra time. I toured all the dams with SRP 2 weeks ago. That looks good in central Arizona. Now we just need to focus on the river corridor and that long-term water augmentation, but that will be on the topic Wednesday morning when we meet in Payson.
Good. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, if you look at another county and they have, newer rights and you think, well, that's like their problem. It isn't. It's going to become, it's a problem that everybody has. Everybody, especially if you have over time done a good job of saving water, you certainly don't want to feel like you're being punished for being good about conservation, which is what Yuma has been good at.
And up to
for a
this
while.
point, because of conservation efforts, we have been penalized.
Yes, we have.
See, I told you. Anyway.
Fine,
I'll bounce to the final report piece because I know you have a lot to do. This is where, these are some of the reports that we're working on now. So they'll be coming out. And I want to thank Ian and his team for their partnership with us on how you all implement things that are done at the legislature. But these are materials we'll be shipping out, some of which have already gone out to the counties to help support the implementation of new laws, as well as the allocation of these new budget resources and other things. And so those are coming your way. And if there are any questions or we can provide any background, we're always available to you and your team. And then Mr. Whiting talked about our summit, which is our most important meeting of the year. It's really where we get organized for the next legislative session. It's coming up very fast. I do want to flag that for legislative proposals to be considered, I humbly request that you get those to us by August 7th. It's not a killer deadline in that we won't let you in if you have something important that comes in after that. It just helps us get ahead on our due diligence and preparation. And so please let us know if we can help in that regard as well. And just as my final point, I just want to thank all of you again for your partnership with our organization. I've had the pleasure of working with you all for many years. I'm grateful for that. We love serving Yuma County. Please don't hesitate to tap us whenever we can be useful to you and your team here. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Any questions for Craig?
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you,
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, and I also want to thank Supervisor Vining for representing all the counties. So, thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Safe travels.
Yeah, how can we tap it?
Moving on to presentation by Iris Associates. Is that Ian? Or,
They're bringing them in. They're probably out there. I hope.
oh, there they are.
It's one of those situations we're trying to help by building a little bigger meeting hall. Yeah, you got it. You're tagged.
Well, thank you, everyone, for having us. I'm excited to be here. My name is Craig Stoffel. I'm a landscape architect with Ayers Associates, planning and environmental engineering firm. And we wanted to talk today to provide an update on the EPA Brownfield Coalition grant that was awarded to, the coalition is made up of the City of Yuma, Yuma County, Yuma Crossing National Heritage Area, as well as the Yuma Multiversity that's now Elevate Southwest. We have Jerry here with us as well today, who will be speaking. So really, we wanted to just provide an update on the grant that was awarded in 2021. It's a 3-year-long grant that'll be expiring at October 2024. And that grant itself was a $500,000 planning grant. And so if we go to the next slide, do I have control of that? So we want to talk, I'll just run through the agenda quickly. So we want to talk about the agenda, a little bit of the schedule, some of the principles that inform the grant activities that that are eligible within this EPA program, and then have some time for Q&A. So this project has evolved over, even when the original application was written, things have changed quite a bit. But what's nice about these EPA brownfield grants are they are a bit fluid. They're flexible in nature. They understand that over 3 years, we're going to discover things are going to change, and so they built in some flexibility, so I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the grant itself, I just wanted to touch on this. They're allocated into 6 tasks, each one with a bucket of money that we're allowed to draw down against those, and so there's some general admin. A big component of it is the community outreach and engagement piece, so I'll touch on that today as well. Half of the grant is really dedicated toward brownfield inventory, environmental site assessment. So it's really just trying to get an understanding of how contaminated, if any, the sites that we're looking at are, so that then we can look into what are the potential after reclamation and remediation, what can that site really come online as and have an economic benefit to the community. So, and then the next one is cleanup, reuse planning, and then the reporting back to the EPA. So with these grants, they really realized almost 2 decades ago that they used to just provide funding for the environmental assessment. And what they were left with communities having a good understanding of how contaminated the sites were, but no real plan to bring them back online into productive reuse. And so they've added the area-wide planning, and as a landscape architect, that's really my focus on these grants. So our company, Ayers Associates, has basically built a purpose team of professionals to tackle all these individual tasks. We have economic development specialists, obviously environmental engineers, but we also have a team of planners and urban planners, landscape architects to really bring it all together. So I mentioned how this grant has, the work plan has really evolved. So when the grant was really originally written, it was to look at the multiversity, really trying to make a downtown master plan for a campus. And the multiversity hired an outside consultant, and they produced a strategic assessment report that really changed the focus of that to be more of an innovation district. So they put out a strategic assessment, and we looked at what eligible activities the grant could do to help promote and support some of those goals that were identified. And so I just highlighted a few main ones here, really that building a regional entrepreneurial ecosystem, promote the importance of place, and establish that innovation district and hub. So with this area-wide planning task, we're going to look at county-wide how we can start to set the table for a new development that will provide a urban village, essentially, was how they phrased it in the report, of a master plan community that supports live, work, play, stay, and learn. So it's going to be a combination of housing, office, lab space, open space. So we'll be looking over the next year to really identify how that land use plan is going to come together. And a big part of the EPA grant really supports community engagement. So we've held one public, it was really an informational public open house back in February, where our goal was really to educate the public about what the grant can and can't do, give a little bit of snapshot of where we're heading. And so we held that initial meeting in February. We're on track to do a minimum of 2 more public engagements here in Yuma and San Luis. I should mention in February we were in San Luis as well as downtown Yuma. So we'll have, we're coming back in October, and when we come back, we'll have a bit of the vision started. We'll start with some concept studies. We'll have an idea of, our economic development team is looking into the amount of housing that is likely to be absorbed in this community, kind of looking at what are the gaps and what can we do to set the stage to really help fulfill those needs. The environmental inventory, obviously with the Brownfield grant, they want to support repurposing blighted sites. And so what we want to know is, what is turning off developers from potentially acquiring a site and repurposing it. So, we'll be looking at how contaminated, if any. A lot of times the brownfield does qualify. A brownfield does not need to be contaminated. Just the perception of contamination will hinder development. So we want to take samples and find out, is there contamination, and then what it will take to remediate. And then these grant efforts can then be the foundation for applying for cleanup grants. So this grant is purely an assessment and inventory. It doesn't have any construction or remediation component to it. So originally when the grant was written, we really focused on the area of Old Town South that was termed, I believe back in 2012, on a previous grant that I was a part of. Working with Ayers in the city of Yuma, we were really focused on south of Gitz Parkway. But after the strategic assessment came out for the multiversity, we went back to the EPA and said, we've got a better idea of, we want to make a bigger impact regionally. We want to look at additional areas outside of that initial boundary. And so the EPA, so we had to present a revised work plan request, and they, the county being a coalition member, that really is the boundary of our study area. So we want to look at San Luis, Arizona, the AWC main campus area. Really just looking at, we've been talking, this whole idea of a grant is to drop a puddle, drop a rock in a lake and just have that ripple effect. And so we want to really make sure that what we do here has an impact throughout the county. So the schedule, this one, it's already a little outdated, but this one, the main points on the schedule I want to touch on is that we're going to be completed in October of 2024. We're going to have multiple public outreach engagements. We're going to begin working on master land use plans, looking at zoning, overall zoning updates that need to happen to help facilitate some of that development, market assessment, financial feasibility analysis, and then really some of those conceptual plans and visionings to, again, really just establish the overall vision that can be flexible and implementable over many years. We know that these brownfield projects take a very long time, but the before and afters are why I wake up every morning and go to work. So with the Innovation District as being kind of the driving force behind it, Innovation Districts themselves are it's a concept. It's a bit of a marketing term, but they do have some real fundamental principles to them. So we are, what is an innovation district? And really it's the idea of creating a space that's collaborative in nature. You have spaces to learn, to work, to live. It's not so much a science park. This is really, you're trying to have it be condensed, consolidated, and somewhere that can support families, communities. It's really, you're building a small community. It's this mashup of activities of housing, office, and all these different neighborhood amenities that make people want to live here and work here. So they tend to have leading edge anchor institutions, some company that comes in, sets up, and is the catalyst for more of those investors. The district surrounds a hub of activity with researchers, creators. So I don't want to get into too much of that detail, but what makes them work? Multiple sectors, that anchor institution, public-private partnerships, and it's really that last one, a sense of place and place making. And so that's where we'll be focusing a lot of our area-wide planning efforts into what's the infrastructure in place in these communities that we're going to be looking at, and how can we build upon that? Hundreds of examples throughout the country. Part of this grant will allow some of the coalition to travel to establish innovation districts. So we're looking to go, I think this fall, probably to meet with some leaders and learn lessons learned, challenges they face. So we're working towards identifying exactly where we want to go and who we want to meet with. But that's one benefit of this grant, is that it'll help the overall coalition have those interviews. So these are just a couple of quick case studies. I don't want to go into too much detail on here, but these are kind of helping us guide our efforts here. But this is generally the amount of the deliverables we'll be producing. You can see master land use plans indicating housing, office. So we'll be generating plans very similar to those. You can see this one was founded in 2002. It's created 3,800 jobs. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. It is a hub for technology and biological science. The footprint is probably slightly larger than what we would be looking at in terms of the overall development of the district. The strategic assessment had 20 to 40 acres identified. But all the case studies I'm going to quickly go through, each have a component that basically is going to be a driver in what we're doing here. So this one in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe is the one that we're going to probably end up going to visit. This one has 3 public research universities as the main driver. This is what really anchors this bioscience core. But it does have more than 20 companies involved. So it's a very long process to attract, all 20 companies didn't just show up at the ribbon cutting ceremony and get to it. But what this area-wide planning and the EPA grant is really about, creating this vision so that we can get everyone pulling in the same direction and starting to engage other developers and public-private partnerships. So this is really a stepping off point for us. This one in Seattle, South Lake Union, I included this one because it has a lot of the mixed-use housing as a main driver of this. So the amount of housing that was added into this industrial area to support the rest of the businesses was something that we're going to be looking at and studying more, because we think that that's also going to be something that's critical to this success. Fitzsimmons case study here, this number 4, this innovation community. This is in Colorado, where I'm from. we installed a light rail system in Colorado, and this was ultimately why this site was chosen for this environmental. It's a massive innovation hub development anchored by the medical campus there, but tons of laboratory and office space. And the reason that it got chosen to be there is that the light rail line. And so with the Hotel del Sol coming online here as a transportation hub, we think that we can look at that as a bit of a driver in how we think about connecting the community, the greater community, or the county, connecting the greater county, and have this great central hub that's coming online. So we'll be looking at multimodal transportation as a big driver too. These are just deeper dives. I think I don't want to run through and read every bullet point on here, but maybe Jerry, this might be a good time to where we have the multiversity and come up and.
So let me give you an explanation a little on well, thank you, Chairman, Board, that UM Multiversity has obviously now has changed their name just a little bit, not to confuse folks. We're actually now Elevate Southwest, and Tony Reyes, supervisor, is one of our board, and GYDC, we have one of the board members as well. Thank you very much. And so what we are here to promote more than anything else is education and industry. One thing that has shown, at least for our demographics here in Yuma County, that as a matter of fact, I just looked at it this morning, that we're at 15.7% bachelor attainment here in Yuma County. And that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we do some sort of innovation hub and make sure that we collaborate with industry. When we have 15.7, it's not that the AWC and or Yuma Union High School are not doing a great job. The fact they're doing an excellent job. It's just that the kids end up leaving, and we need to provide more opportunities for our kids for them to stay instead of leaving. And that's one of the main issues we have, to make sure that we collaborate and work with industries to make it a bigger type of ecosystem for our industries to stay, and yet our universities and colleges to expand their footprint here in Yuma County. We're 206,000 people, and Flagstaff has a bigger footprint with NEU. It's not that they're doing a great job over there. It's just that we need to do a little bit better job on ourselves to collaborate with all of our partners that we have in Yuma County and take advantage of that. But we're here just to promote the industry and education, to make sure that we work collaboratively moving forward. And this is one of the great places that we can do that. Just down the street, our neighbors from Mexicali have been doing this for about 30 years. They started with TVs back in 30 years ago with Sanyo and whatnot. Now they're leading in aerospace industry because they work collaboratively with their industries. So just one case study that's really close by here that we need to kind of mimic in certain areas. Obviously, we might not be in aerospace. We have great agriculture, and we can grow out of that in type of industries and technologies that has been taking place in the last couple of years with lasers and a whole bunch of other great stuff, and including water conservation. That's high technology, engineering at its best, and we need to provide that type of skilled labor with our folks here, instead of the kids leaving, and increasing that 15.7 to a little bit more better opportunity for our kids, and have other industries to look at our area. So, and this will definitely help out how we take place.
Any questions for Jerry? And no? Well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Moving on to construction management. Your presentation from David. David's gonna keep it short.
Yeah, he put his water next to the thing. That's not a good sign, but.
Good morning, Chairman Porteous, members of the board, Dave Hillen, Construction Project Director. I will do my best to keep this brief. We did feel like it would be a good time to provide an update on where we are with a couple of exciting projects for Yuma County. We'll focus primarily on where we are in the overall process in developing the new Yuma County Administration Services building. Looking a little bit at schedule and budget along the way, we'll also touch briefly on the Health Department project as that project moves to the next phase in the expansion and development, renovation of that space. As far as an update on the Administration Services Building, well, there you go. There's your update. Any questions?
Yeah, right there.
No, seriously, I present this just as a bit of a reminder. We do have the live construction camera that's mounted on our current administration building in the background, facing the opposite direction. So this gives you a little bit of snapshot of what it looks like from the east side, from edge of Maiden Lane, looking back to the west. In the basement, as you can see, the demolition is complete, and all the previous construction has been removed from the site. We'll talk a little bit more about the actual process there in a moment. As far as the status on the design side, BWS Architects, Thompson Design Architects, and their consultant engineers, they've completed the civil package, the landscaping package as well. 100% construction documents been submitted to the city for review. 95% construction documents for all the other trades have been completed and submitted to the county for review. We've wrapped up our review and returned those comments back to the design team for the final revisions. Hand in hand with that, I'll talk a little bit about VE, that's value engineering. We'll talk about that when we look at the budget a little bit and kind of how that process works. And then we're on track right now for the release of the 100% construction documents by the end of this month on the 28th. So that's the on the design side. On the construction side, with Pilkington Construction is our CMAR and their subtrades. GMP1, that was the demolition package. That is complete as of June the 5th. The board approved our GMP2 package back in May. That allowed us to get the early steel package procured and move forward with earthwork and shoring activities. That steel has been, the order's been placed. The detailing is in progress by our steel subcontractor. And as you saw in that last photo too, the earthwork is in progress. The earthwork will kind of bounce back and forth on both sides, in advance of the shoring, after the shoring, in advance of the foundation walls, and afterwards as well as they backfill and compact that area. The shoring design, they actually brought the complete a little bit ahead of schedule. We got that last week and reviewed it and provided a couple of comments back, and that'll go to the city now. We've been told there'll be a 5-day turnaround for the permit for shoring, so that should get started here within the next week. The contractor held a pre-bid conference on the 8th, right across the street here. We were able to use the movie theater actually for the conference. It worked really well right next to the project site. Good turnout there. It was not mandatory attendance required, so we do have other subcontractors bidding on the project as well, and we're encouraged by the amount of response and turnout participation that we're seeing going in advance of their bids being due about 10 days from now on the 29th. And then GMP3, of course, that's the big one, that's the construction package. The cost estimate's due from Pilkington on July the 10th. The county will review that and see where we stand in terms of the overall project budget. And the hope is that we're in line and we're able to bring that to the board, present it to the board for approval. The first board meeting of August, if there's anything that needs to be discussed, stretched out further, then we may end up having to push that to the second board meeting of August, but fingers crossed, all looks good. This is just, I won't go through all this, but this is everything that's outside of the contractor scope. So these are things that we manage in-house. Some of these items, contracts have been released. The top one's complete. Actually, that was before the demolition of the building. All the others either are in progress under an existing contract or are currently being priced and will be reviewed and brought to the board for approval at the appropriate time. There's a fair amount there, as you can see. A recap of the building itself, what we're planning on building. There has been, since the last time you saw this photo or rendering, there's been some minor changes. And again, that's part of the overall design process. We make recommendations, the team makes recommendations back to the design team for implementation. Sometimes it's a change of material, sometimes it's a reduction in one material and increase of another, and so on. So there's been some subtle changes since the last time you saw this, but as you can see, it's still primarily looking as we had planned last time I presented. This is the Main Street side, the west side, and the south side here, as seen from 2nd Street. These next images you have not been seen before. These are some interior renderings, and I'll just say ahead of time that these are still in progress. So some colors and things like that are still open for debate, such as the blue that you'll see on this next image. So this is just inside the lobby on coming in from the 2nd Street from the south, the 3-story high lobby area with the reception, the centralized reception counter, and doors back here that would enter into the auditorium vestibule. And in hearing your comment, Supervisor Reyes, yes, we are do still, look forward to having a larger auditorium that will accommodate all these fine folk that are here today, all within one space. We're looking at a capacity of somewhere around 115 seats inside of the auditorium now, instead of the, 30 or so that we have here. Inside, this is the front end of the auditorium, Board Supervisor auditorium. A couple things to highlight that are not quite accurate here. You see 2 different lecterns shown. There will only be one. I communicated to the design team I want to have the ability to move that and connect it through a floor jack. So if we're not in a board setting, we're presenting to an audience facing that way. Otherwise, we're over here presenting facing you all. We also won't have cheap plastic folding chairs. We'll have something a little nicer than those shown there. But apart from that, you get the idea of the type of finishes we're looking for. You see,
Dave, is there a skate pod or some sort of mechanism where we can just touch it and have the speaker drop down on the floor like in the basement?
It's going to be pretty cutting edge. I'll say that on that list of all the owner provided
I don't
services.
like you, and you push your button.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do. There's a basement underneath. Yeah, just shoot you right
Send
down.
them to the
down lower
basement.
level.
No, look, I know we're not talking. I mean, this is still preliminary design, but I was sort of taken up by the fact that there was a way to come into that area where the supervisors sit that had an access point that didn't require you to come to the front. That I didn't see that in there.
No, it's on the back side of this image. You wouldn't be able to see it, but it is there. There's multiple exit points, but there's a separate private.
Yeah, we need to run. You got to find it.
I don't have the floor
exit
plan with
quickly,
me. I'd point that out, but
okay.
We're thinking about you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I like this image here. This is on the 2nd floor between the treasurer's office on the left and the assessor's office on the right. The reason I like it, this was an important aspect for me. Again, I've mentioned before the importance of getting natural light into the interior spaces where people are working and doing what they need to do. And this accomplishes that, coming down from the 3rd floor roof through the 3rd floor down to the 2nd floor space. I think that's a really important element. And, especially on the 3rd floor, we got a number of interior offices facing that central corridor that'll benefit from seeing that light. Each floor has a color scheme associated with it. Our designer's still sort of working through that. The 2nd floor is meant to sort of represent the agricultural aspects with the green touches, if you will. The 1st floor, you might have seen on the terrazzo flooring, has a depiction primarily of the Colorado River, so there's more blue accents and then more of the desert sun, if you will, on the 3rd floor, some reddish colors. This is the public lobby area on the 2nd floor facing back towards Main Street with the treasurer's customer service counter on the right, and then beyond that is the assessor's office back here. Elevators here on the left-hand side, and again, this open down to the lobby below. Yeah, I was afraid this was going to be the case, and so I'll just kind of talk through a couple of points. This is the overall budget sheet. I condensed it as far as I've got pages and pages of this data, and it's condensed down about as far as I could reasonably get it, I guess. But what you're seeing here is, again, broken into those categories we saw earlier: professional services, owner-provided services, the CMAR construction services, and contingency and value engineering down below. Basically, what I wanted to highlight here is that as we move through each process from the design development phase that was released back in December into the 50% CD package that was released in earlier this spring, and now as we get into the 95s, the process follows kind of a multiple steps as the designer releases the plans. They go through interior review and comment. Those comments make their way back to the designer before they begin the next phase of their design effort. At the same time, the contractor is putting together his cost estimate that is reflected in here. And then the overall team is reviewing that cost estimate and applying some level of value engineering, a dollar amount here that we need to see in order to maintain our overall budget. The point I want to make here, as we are at this point here, the highlighted section, we have a placeholder here to see where we come out through that whole process. It kind of loops around through from one column to the next. Our hope is that the majority, at least, of our value engineering tentatively priced items make their way and reduce this number here before we bring it to the board for approval. As you can see, even still, going back to last December, we talked about a need to adjust the total project budget up to about this 49.1. We're struggling to keep that even within the 50 million range. And if we do exceed that too much before we bring that GMP back to the board for approval in August, we may need to meet with the steering committee and determine if that's the direction we want to go, if we want to need to see one additional bump in the overall project budget or look further at ways to reduce that cost. We're holding it as it's a topic of daily discussion and finding ways, and I'm very proud of our overall team for being creative in how to manage that budget. As far as schedule goes, we're here at the highlighted in June of 23. Very busy time, as you can see, as we're developing these final cost estimates and heading into, we're into the shoring and earthwork stage. Construction here is scheduled to go, I'm showing it as 19 months, which is bleeding into the early part of 2025. This is also a topic of daily discussion. We've seen projected completion dates as far out as May and June of 25. We've worked through a number of work sessions to get that pushed back earlier into that year. Of course, there's multiple ways to look at it. The contractor is concerned with making sure that he's got an adequate amount of time to do what he needs to do, as this becomes part of that final contract that you all will need to approve before he moves forward. So that's what we're projecting right now, with move-in dates happening after substantial completion later spring of 25. Moving over to the health department project.
That'll be done by 2030.
Yes, Diana, looks at you.
Just as a reminder, again, the basis of the design is built around this, what we call the 3 S's, improving the overall security to the facility, eliminating the multiple points of access down to one shared lobby space, increasing the amount of space for staff, including meeting and training room space, and increasing the amount of storage that the facility has to operate. The option that was selected by the board included about approximately 15,000 square feet of new construction, which includes that new lobby space, expanding where the facility was designed to be expanded off the northwest corner, approximately 4,500 square feet, and a remodel of existing interior space, approximately 25,000 square feet. As far as current status, the project, the RFQ is out on the streets now currently. It went out on the 26th of May and it closes on the 29th of June. And this was the RFQ to select the design build team for the project. An overview of the proposed project laid over an aerial view of the existing site. A little bit more detail here. Again, the pink area, purple areas is what would be renovated existing facility space. The green is new construction, including the shared common lobby here, expanded operating space to the southwest, the northwest expansion area, and new warehouse up above. Along with that includes some site development work to reconfigure the south parking lot, as well as the access drive across the north. There are some alternates built into this as well. Overall schedule here carries us into the new construction here carries us through the end of 2024. At that point in time, we kind of start this chess game, if you will, of moving staff out of the way to renovate that space, either into temporary space or back into their permanent final resting space. So I'm showing this as 3 phases of move, remodel, move back in, move others out, remodel, et cetera, with this wrapping up here late summer of 25. Overall budget here, we've broken the project into 5 categories of new construction, site development, et cetera. And we've provided a range cost estimating wise, which brings us down from about, I want to say around 21. I can't read my own presentation down here, up to as high as 27. We have a working budget for this project at $22.5 million. It's a little bit towards the lower end, but we do feel it's comfortable for what we want to accomplish here on this project. I'll leave it right there if there's any questions.
Just one question on the new side. How is APS coming along with this? If you don't keep them on board from early on,
APS on the project across the street?
they're sometimes the issues is getting their equipment ready, and it needs to be ordered like 12 months ahead.
The electrical gear, that is absolutely correct. We're looking at something, what is it, like 16 months on the switch gear or something like that? So as soon as we get that GMP3 approved, that'll be one of the first things that gets ordered. It is way out there. APS in general has been as responsive. We're having to move some existing power lines on the backside below ground, and they've been active in getting that accomplished for us. So.
Well, the concern is without power, without them bringing in their equipment in time. I mean, it won't matter if what your time frames are. If APS doesn't have the equipment ready for when you need it, it'll delay everything. So just keep that in mind. I think you guys know that, but just a reminder. The experience you have with APS is they're really good to work with as long as they have the equipment you need. And if anything happens anywhere, it takes a lot of equipment to deal with it.
You're highlighting a good point. Benefit of having the construction managed risk approach on this project allows for those sort of conversations to take place early and get an early jump on it. So.
And I shouldn't have just said APS. I mean, the utility section is the same way. The city needs to be aware that there may be some particular equipment, manholes or whatever, that need to be, had before you finish the project that they may have a problem getting. It's getting to a point now where some of that equipment is just not readily available. You have to have it made somewhere, and it needs to come from somewhere. And we're having a lot of supply issues now. All right.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, and my thing, David, is we got to make sure and communicate with U of A cooperative extension. If they need to be moved, we better have a place to be moved to before we start any movement there. That would be my direction. We cannot start, and also you got to have that communication with them.
It's not me.
I did meet with Director Russ Engel late last week. We talked about that, among other things. Not too many decisions can be made until we have the design team on board to help us to establish exactly what has to happen when, at what point along the way. And as soon as we do that, it absolutely is a priority to make sure that that is addressed.
Yeah, because at least I won't approve any if we don't have a place where we're going to move them before we start anything. We really got to think about that. All right. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Thank you, Dick. Presentation, Yuma County Line.
MCAS Yuma takes proactive measures to ensure well water safety. Yuma County Sheriff's Office urges the public to prioritize waterway safety during rising temperatures. And the Yuma County Law Library empowers the community with legal resources. These stories and more, this is your County Line. MCAS Yuma is proactively ensuring the safety of drinking water wells near the Marine Corps Air Station by conducting tests for PFAS substances. The U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Air Station are providing free sampling for off-base wells in the MCAS Yuma to Avenue A area. Residents who receive waters from the City of Yuma or MCAS Yuma are not included in the sampling. Property owners and tenants within the designated area have been notified.
We appreciate their community partnership and the fact that they've reached out and that they are taking an active role in looking at PFAS and other contaminants in the water. Contaminants that were part of firefighting chemicals that they may have used on the Marine base. You also have a long history of fuel usage and fuel loss because of the airplanes, etc. over there. So they've decided to reach out and to make sure that people's wells and the water that is coming out of those wells are not contaminated.
MCAS Yuma's commitment to community well-being is evident in their thorough and prompt approach to addressing water quality concerns. This initiative aims to ensure the safety of drinking water for all residents in the vicinity. To schedule an appointment, call 888-444-9862. As temperatures rise in Yuma County, the river becomes a popular destination for people seeking relief from the heat. To ensure safety on the crowded waterways, the Yuma County Sheriff's Office emphasizes the importance of practicing safety measures. With the 4th of July approaching, the Sheriff's Office wants to remind the public to be prepared and prioritize safety at all times while boating, fishing, or paddling. This includes wearing life jackets, following waterway rules, and refraining from drinking and operating a boat.
So I would highly suggest for people to stay safe and have fun is to hydrate properly and not substitute that with alcohol so that they can continue to have fun, stay safe, not only for themselves, but for everybody else that's sharing the waterways with them.
The Sheriff's Office urges caution and responsible behavior to ensure a pleasant and incident-free experience on the water. Did you know about the exceptional service offered by the Yuma County Law Library? Yuma County's Law Library is an invaluable resource that serves both the general public and the esteemed local legal community, including judges and attorneys. As a dedicated research library, they provide unparalleled access to the law and a vast array of legal information. Residents have the opportunity to harness comprehensive resources for their legal research and work. It's important to note that while the Law Library offers an abundance of resources, it does not provide legal advice. Visit the Law Library and have access to the law in person. For more information, call 928-817-4165.
Hi, I'm Mary, and this is your Health Watch. It's summer, and with that can bring the risk of foodborne illness. Each year, 1 in 6 Americans become ill by consuming contaminated foods or beverages. You can prevent this by following a few simple precautions. Clean, separate, cook, chill, and report. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and water before, during, and after preparing food and before eating. Wash utensils, cutting boards, and countertops with hot soapy water after preparing each food item. Rinse fresh fruits and vegetables under running water. Keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood in sealed containers or wrap them securely so the juices don't leak out onto other foods in the refrigerator. Using a food thermometer to measure the internal temperature of meat and poultry is a good way to be sure that it is cooked sufficiently to kill bacteria. Refrigerate leftover food if they are not going to be eaten within 4 hours. Report suspected foodborne illness to your local health department. For more information, call the Yuma County Public Health Services District at 928-317-4550. That is all for now. Stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we head out, just a quick reminder about our upcoming holiday. Independence Day is just around the corner. July 4th falls on a Tuesday this year, and most of your county offices will be closed. While it's a day that many will be celebrating, don't forget to celebrate safely so everyone can enjoy themselves. Thank you for joining us for County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to our website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless board members so request. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for a separate discussion and action. And I have items 1 to 17.
I'd like to discuss item number 8, 15, and 17.
8, 15, and 17.
Yes.
Any other items?
If not, I'll make a motion, we approve consent items 1 through 17 with the exception of 8, 15, and 17.
There's a
I'll
motion.
second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve consent calendar with the exception of 8, 15, and 17. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
Mr. Chairman, on item number 8 is the acquisition of real property for Yuma County Administration Service Building located along the southern portion of the property of the Yuma Regency Main Street Cinema at 111 South Main Street. So we finally, the deal is to buy that property for the county to own it. And is it a situation where we sort of give them a right of way?
Chairman Porteous, Supervisor Reyes, yeah, that's essentially what happens. The offer was made and accepted to purchase up to, this would be Exhibit A, if you don't mind, thank you. Up to 3 feet off of the wall of the movie theater building, the line in pink, as you can see, kind of across the top there. That's as far as, in that direction, we're able to purchase, maintaining required space, if you will, between that new property line, the hard property line, and the theater wall itself. And then the green hatched area represents the easement area, which prevents any new construction taking place within that area, while also providing access rights, egress from the theater building, access to our utilities rooms along that north wall, et cetera.
David, congratulations. It is basically what I'd like to see happen. So, I just didn't want to let the time. It's anticlimactic. We argue a lot about this stuff, and when it happens, we forget to mention it. So this is exactly what I think we needed. We're building a $50 million building next to an area that we had technically no control over, and this solves that issue, and I appreciate it a lot. So thank you.
It was a long process, but I think we had a good cooperation between us and the theater owner, and happy with the result. Thank you.
So motion to approve item number 8 is presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15.
Number 15 is to approve and authorize the chairman to enter into a consulting service agreement between Yuma County Assessor and Joe Worley for the provision of consulting services to support the Yuma County Assessor for a term of 1 year effective July 1st, 2023. Did we have an agreement with Mr. Worley before now, or is this the first time? Oh, who's?
I'm aware of, I believe this is the first time. First time.
So
Reference to us losing that one guy.
Oh, all right. So it's like a replacement. We needed some help, and Mr. Worley was available to do it.
That's right. There's a vacancy in the office, and we need that expertise to not only train 2 employees that are there, but also the employee that had left is going to be replaced. And so need that expertise on a temporary basis to get those people up to speed.
Mr. Worley has been retired for a while, hasn't he? A year? Just 1 year? Okay. All right. I just wondered whether this was to assist the new recorder, or the new assessor, the new assessor, or it was some issue. And it's been explained to me it's more like a temporary issue. No.
She's back there.
No, there's no.
Okay.
It's on purpose.
You were hiding so well.
I was hiding very well. I kept moving with the guy that was standing in front of me.
So you think it's wise for us to bring in the former?
I do. With his
assessor?
knowledge and expertise at the level of what we need right now, it would be very beneficial for our office and the county as a whole.
I tell you what, every time that Mr. Worley was up in front of us, he would mention how complicated the system was in Arizona. And I guess he's made his point even when he retired again. So.
Well, and he created a lot of the system for the state, like for the assessor's offices, because he's been here for,
many years, many years.
20 years. So he grew up in the system. He created a lot of the processes. So, yeah, it will definitely be beneficial for Yuma County as a whole, for our office, for the state of Arizona, because the assessor's office works closely with other counties as well. So.
No, I believe 100% in the fact that people gain a lot of seniority, gain a lot of knowledge, and then when they retire, we lose it. We have to start again, or people need to be trained again. So I'm in favor of it. I just wanted to know why it was.
Well, I am glad.
Right, so my motion would be to approve.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve. Item 15 is presented.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 17 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Right, item number 17 is recorder elections, and it's adopting new election precinct boundaries for Yuma County. This is necessitated by the changes in population, or what necessitated the changes in the precinct boundaries? Kika comes in.
Kika, I mean,
So the reason why we came to the board is we wanted to adopt and amend our redistricting precinct boundaries that we brought in place. So this was based on the 2020 redistricting.
Okay, so it is based on the 2020 redistricting and the new census tract numbers that require for us to divide again all the precincts, balance them out,
Correct.
right?
So now we have a total of 47 precincts.
Which we had how many before?
We had 44 before.
So 3 new precincts.
3 new precincts.
Okay. I don't have any particular concern other than the fact that that reflects again Yuma's growing.
It is.
And it just needs to adapt to to everything that's going on. I was surprised when I read the article in the newspaper about the city of San Luis losing residents because I don't see it, right? But it's weird. So when we talked about new precincts, I say, well, I think somebody came in earlier and made a presentation and said that Yuma County had 206,000 people, and I'm like, maybe not in the winter. Probably has more in the winter. But anyway, this is a result of that growth, right? So you had to just sort of create 3 new precincts, add them. Just thank you.
Any other questions?
More questions?
No.
All right.
Motion to approve item 17 as presented. Thank you, Kika.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second to approve item number 17 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'll go ahead and do consent calendar.
No. Yeah, the House Governing Board, you had to recess the Yuma County Board of Supervisors.
I think he's gonna move on.
Are you moving one?
And
Let's keep it.
this is so we just. on
Yeah,
this
it's
one,
just a
we'll-
consent.
We'll approve it really consent, so, we'll call, Virginia Garcia, is she here? She's not here? No, she's not. Do we need her here, or?
No, we got
or
them.
still-
We
Okay.
still have a quorum.
Okay, I'll go ahead and recess the Yuma County Board of Supervisors and convene as the Yuma County Housing Board. In item number 1, housing resolution number.
I do want to pull it. I do want to ask a question, and I need to pull it out.
Well, let me open it
Oh,
first.
okay.
All right. Resolution number 2023 -24, approving the amount of $3,444 with 66 cents to be written off as bad debt account. And we have some.
So I have a question. It's more a point of clarification. Did I read wrong, or was I looking at the newspaper article wrong when it said that you were, writing off bad debt to the tune of $3 million? Obviously, it's $3,000. Just wanted to make sure. I know Mara's listening, so maybe it was just me looking at the numbers wrong, but.
Just for the people that they're no longer in the program, and we're.
So is this a yearly thing?
It's something that we do. We
Every
ask
year.
for a resolution so we can send to HUD so we can have it in our books.
Thank you. That's it. I just want to make sure it's $3,000. Okay, that was it, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve item number 1 as presented.
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2023-24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll go ahead and adjourn the Yuma County Housing Board and can reconvene to the Yuma County Board of Supervisors regular session. And I'm gonna go ahead and move item, the rezoning, the public hearing, special use permit case number 2023-03. And we have,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner. Mr. Chairman, on June 18, 2023, the Yuma County Planning Director, Maggie Castro, received a formal request to withdraw special use permit case 2303. Now that case is being reviewed. However, the representative and the applicants are here if the board has any questions.
There was a lot of opposition or what?
From a club.
I don't, sorry, I don't, it's pretty obvious to me, I mean, what happened. I mean, they need to work more with the people from around that area and make sure that they are more acceptable to the people that live in that area or work or play in that area. I don't have any particular questions from the applicant. I'm just stating what seems to be the obvious.
So they're withdrawing?
Yeah, you will need to accept the withdrawal and probably take no action on it, and it's a public, in advertise, and if you want to open it to the public.
I think we need to open it up.
I'll open it up. Thank you,
just in
Javier.
case people showed up.
I'll go ahead and, any other questions from the board? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up. Or let me ask the applicant if he wants to say anything.
Chairman, members of the board, my name is Ben Graff. I'm with the firm of Quarles and Brady, representing Eolus North America Incorporated and Houdini LLC. We appreciate the county staff and the board accepting our letter of withdrawal today. And yes, just for clarification for the day, the main purpose behind the withdrawal is we as a team think we can do a better job with this application if we withdraw it, take the time to meet with the community in more detail, continue to answer questions from the community, and come back and reapply at a future date. So we're acknowledging that I think as a team we can work with, for example, the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club more closely, other members of the community, members of the board and county staff. We do want to thank county staff and particularly planning staff for all the work they put into this up until this point, but we are formally withdrawing it so that we can come back at a later date.
All right, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and open it to the public. And I have a couple of speaker forms. Kyle?
Now, you don't have to say anything if you want, okay? Just making sure.
I'll try to keep it brief. Since I prepared something, it's appreciate the withdrawal and the reconsideration from the applicant on this, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I guess I was requesting a denial previously, but since it's been withdrawn, it's kind of pointless, but I would like to let you hear more clarification from our side. My name is Kyle Kuchel, and I stand before you as a representative of both myself and my cherished small hunting guide business, Malpai Made. I implore you to reject special use permit case number 23-0C, which proposes the establishment of a solar generating facility in Game Management Unit 41. This facility would inevitably deprive the public of their rightful access to nearly 4,200 acres of delicate and unspoiled public lands. Allow me to emphasize that I am not simply a concerned citizen with no personal connection to the affected area. I have invested countless hours within these very parcels under consideration. I have camped, observed the endangered Sonoran pronghorn antelope out there, hunted mule deer, dove, quail, and predators on these lands. Furthermore, I have had the privilege of guiding clients throughout the breathtaking expanses of our stunning public lands in Yuma County, which are currently easily accessible. Access, as I emphasized today, is my fundamental aspect underlying my plea for denial. The proposed location is in close proximity to major paved roads, ensuring the citizens of Yuma County can easily and readily access and explore our magnificent desert without traversing several miles of inhospitable terrain. These parcels are a mere 15 minutes from exiting Interstate 8, and families can find themselves immersed in the land and the wonders of the desert without requiring expensive equipment or risking damage to their vehicles. Moreover, it is on this very land that the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club holds its annual youth quail camp, an invaluable opportunity for the young residents of several Arizona counties and tribal communities to learn about the great outdoors and perhaps even partake in the pursuit of quail residing in the Red Raven Wash, which bisects these parcels. Regrettably, if this facility is approved, it would displace this treasured tradition. I acknowledge the State Land Department's legitimate interest in generating revenue from state trust lands. However, I bring to your attention the fact that there are viable alternative locations for such a project, such as the Sentinel Dunes situated southwest of Dateland Elementary, or southwest of the proposed parcels and west of Dateland Elementary School. The alternate land can be accessed easily from Interstate 8 and supports significantly fewer wildlife populations. The land currently in question even has less access than the alternate location, and the alternate location even has maintained access from North County 2nd Street. I'm not suggesting that a solar facility would not be beneficial to Yuma County. This decision is ultimately yours to make. What I am asserting unequivocally is that the proposed location would undeniably have adverse consequences for the land users, the wildlife inhabiting these lands, and accessibility to the near 100,000 acres of public lands lying beyond the confines of the requested parcels via the Palomas-Harquahala Road, which is the main southern access point to these lands. In closing, I implore each member of the board to consider the long-term consequences of granting such a special use permit, and by denying this proposal, we can preserve the delicate balance between progress and conservation, ensuring that our citizens, both present and future, can continue to relish in the unparalleled beauty and access of our public lands. Let us not sacrifice the irreplaceable wonders that define our county in the name of short-term gains. The decision rests in your hands, and I trust that you will choose wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. Another speaker form, Pat Hilton.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pat Headington, I'm president, Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club, Southwest Wildlife Foundation. I want to first recognize the Aeolus team and their commitment to open communications, some candid communications, and probably on their behalf, some somewhat painful communications. I would also like to renew our commitment to working with them and maintaining open communications as we work forward on a project for Aeolus. Hopefully that would be a different location other than this one. I know in communicating with Mr. Scholes and Mr. Calkins, like you say, the last 3 weeks have been a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails, and I know you folks are aware of many of those also. So we appreciate the candid communications, open communications, look forward to working with them and making sure that we're all working together in the best interest of Arizona's public lands, our public land users, and our wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Anybody else from the public that for or against? Just state your name and address, bank account, and I'll just.
Hi, James Michael Green, 11459 South Avenue 9E. I came in as part of the united effort of the Rod and Gun Club to express our disagreement with this thing. And while I don't want to speak specifically to any of the individual measures because other people can do it so much better in regards to the impact of this particular thing on the area that it would have, I just want to state my comments in general in regards to projects like this coming up in the future, especially since Houdini does express a desire to represent. And that's why are we doing this to our native desert? Why are we putting these things on the wildlife and the wildland that we have until every commercial building has solar on the roof and every parking lot has solar parking put up? Why are we going to disrupt our wildlife and our wildlands by putting these projects up just because it's easy and convenient? It's because it's an unspoiled area for them to come in, flatten it out, and put the solar in. Why not do it in the already developed areas? Why not have covered parking with solar on it over every parking lot in this city, every parking lot in this state? That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
Does it require for us to take any action in regards to, the removal?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I don't think so, because technically, since you received your written withdrawal pursuant to ordinance, there's nothing to vote on. It's done.
All right.
Well, we just did, so that's why we just took comments from the public, so.
But we're not gonna, there's no
You
action.
can-
No, there's no
Take
action.
the action.
Yeah. No, there's no need action. Okay, all right, there's no item.
All
We
right,
just talked.
I'll bring it back to the board and move on to.
Back.
And the applicant, I want to thank you for being here today, so. And good luck on.
I'm not bringing it back, huh?
Everybody a chance to.
Discussion and action items, you're going
Everybody
back
a chance to clear
to
out.
County Administration and Public Works. The name. We're going back to the critical issue of the name of the Foothills Park. What has dominated the news
Thanks, Kyle.
since he came out.
Thank you, Kyle.
What did we name him? What did we name him?
Foothills County Park.
And you want to name it what?
I want to,
Community?
I want a community park, but I want.
Can everybody move up to the front row now?
Clear out. We're going to talk about the important things now, like the naming the park.
Discussion and action items. Item number 1, county
Concrete?
administration, public works. At the request of the Board of Supervisors, discussion and possible
Can
action.
we have everybody move away from that door, please?
I just want to make sure that you know I didn't request this.
Nope, this was me.
Can we have the deputy ask him to move away?
That'll close.
Step away. It's slowly. That door closes slowly.
They need to take it down the street.
That's okay.
A little bit.
Discussion and possible
excited.
action to
You can go back
reconsider
to
the name that was chosen at the May 22, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting, Foothills County Park, formerly known as the Foothills Multipurpose Complex, currently being developed into a new park. Rachel.
Thank you, Ian.
Chairman Porteous, members of the board, Rachel Stallworth, Yuma County Public Works, and on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and we understood that the board may want to reconsider the name that they chose on May 22nd, which was the Foothills County Park at that time. So I believe there may be, you want to discuss what you previously chose and reconsider at this point. You have some ideas, I hope.
Mr. Chairman, I asked to bring this back. Just, I was hearing some comments, and the more, it just doesn't seem like it, I guess flowed is the word I'm looking for, or whatever, Foothills County Park. And I know we want to make sure it's known that this is a county park, since this is one of the first ones we've done. And what I was thinking was if we could change it to like Foothills Community Park, and then above it, you know, on the sign, have the logo, Yuma County Foothills Community Park. I think we would be.
Oh, then we call it Yuma County Foothills Community Park.
Yeah, it's just mainly Foothills.
As long as it has
Park,
county in it,
but
I
we'll-
don't care where you put it. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that it is a park, and it is in the foothills, but it isn't just for foothill residents. It's for
it's a
anyone.
county park.
It's a county park, and I just wanted to make sure that if we name it anything, the fact would remain that it is a county park, whether it's in the foothills. You know, when you call it Foothills Community Park, it sort of has a tendency to become more neighborhood. And so I wanted to try to keep that. You know, we call it the Foothills Park because of the location and because of the efforts to put it in there. But we didn't want to call it anything, you know, regarding the Dianza Trail or anything historic because we didn't want people confused. So I personally just don't want people confusing that as just a community park for the foothills. It is like the, what do you call that peak that people climb all the time? That tower.
Telegraph Pass?
Telegraph Pass. Telegraph Pass is Telegraph Pass, right? It doesn't, people from everywhere go out
It's in
there.
the county, though.
It's in the county. Yeah, but it's not ours, dude.
Well,
Nobody's, yeah.
I just want to make sure. I don't care if we call it a Foothills Community Park, as long as we call it a Yuma County Foothills Community Park. No problem.
All right, so
Flows
what's
better.
going to be, what's going to be?
well, I want to
Mr.
make a
Chairman?
motion.
Darren, you did have quite a few residents out there suggest names.
Oh, yeah, we were looking at the Dianza, they wanted the trails, and the way I kind of looked at it, because you're, how do you pick one trail? And it just gets confusing.
The
If
Devil's
we're
Trail. It's
wanting
the
to
Devil's
mark trails, we can put signage around the walking path that can describe the trails that are passing through that area, so people can read about them and gain knowledge on it. But I just want to keep it really simple, to the point, and Foothills Community Park just seems to kind of cover it all. And like I said, we put Yuma County above it to make sure everybody knows this is a Yuma County park. And my motion is just to change it to, you know, the Yuma County Foothills Community Park.
I like Camino del Diablo. Yeah, it sounds really like Spanish.
Whatever you
Devil's
choose
Road.
is fine. Yeah.
Well, Yuma
My
County
thought
Foothills
is-
Community Park is fine, as long as there's
I'll
Yuma
second
County in
that.
there.
All right.
Very good.
There's a motion and a second.
This was very controversial. It took about.
Super controversial.
Super
All those-
controversial.
All those
All
in
right.
favor say
I won't
aye.
sleep tonight, Tony.
I won't either, man.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. That was a painful aye in my case.
You know, Chairman Porteous, members of the board, no matter what you name this park, they will only call it Foothills Park.
Doesn't
You
matter.
can give it any name you want to.
You know,
but
we
know
have the
that's-
same thing. It's the San Luis Library,
Yeah.
the Somerton Library, and the
Exactly.
Foothills Library, right? Most people don't even know they're county libraries. They're just the community's library. So,
True.
yeah, I just didn't want to leave it open that it is a county park and anybody can have access to it, not just the Foothills community. I think the Foothills community is a big beneficiary, but I do want it open to everybody. I like everybody to know that they can enjoy that too.
This will work.
Yeah, they can enjoy going to the border crossing in San Luis. We won't care.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
Make sure Yuma County is in big letters on top.
Going on to item number 2. And this is the county attorney.
Angela.
Your turn.
Good morning,
Morning.
Chairman Burgess and members of the board.
Shouldn't have the chocolate.
I'm here today to ask you to set a bond amount that needs to be executed to the state of Arizona for the county treasurer per state statute.
So what is it? What do you suggest?
I'm sorry?
What do you suggest?
Fellow treasurers, other county treasurers range from $250,000 to $100,000 for their term, costing approximately just over $1,000. So one term could be at $1,300 was the exact sample I got in another county, and that's a $100,000 bond just executed to the state for a treasurer.
So it's a, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
What is the purpose of the bond?
So-
For the benefit of those at home and me.
Yes. If I will read you the exact, very simple ARS.
Okay.
In case he steals them.
Before assuming the duties of tax collector, the county treasurer shall execute to the state a bond on such penal amount as the county board of supervisors requires, but not more than twice the amount of money that may come into the county treasurer's possession as a tax collector in 1 year, which this fiscal year is $1.7 billion as of today.
See, that was more confusing than I just thought. Okay, well, if we get her $100,000 bond, it would be okay, right?
Right.
So 150.
I'm
let's
looking
not
over
pay-
for legal counsel, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
An
Yeah.
attorney wrote it, so.
Members of the board, just the cases that interpret the statute reference an illegal collection of a tax.
So what does that mean?
And the county treasurer is a tax collector for the state as well as the county and so forth. So the legislature, I mean, it's I think it came into existence in 1932.
I choose 150,000.
Legal tax, and they wanted the treasurer to execute a bond in the event the illegal tax was collected, so
Mhm.
the monies could be paid back.
Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm.
so it's in order to stave off a lawsuit or just to aid and assist in the illegal collection of
Don't do that.
the latter?
We are
To
also,
assist in
as
the
the
legal-
Yuma County Treasurer, listed under our self-insurance policy, also in addition to cover.
Mr. Chairman,
Is it okay?
is this something that we need to address in a state statute? I mean, is it relevant to today?
It is a state statute. I mean, it's
I
a
know.
current effective state statute, so it's been in existence.
Can we address it by just tell her to get $150,000 bond and get over it?
Yes.
Is that fine? Okay, then let's do it. They just take too much time.
Get a
We meet
$150 bond for the
$50,000.
$150?
$150,000, sorry?
Yeah, 150,000. I'll second that motion.
No kidding.
Okay, there's a motion.
She needs to be
for
bonded. Is what it is. the point.
150,000 and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
If you've been a notary public, you know what that is.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we got a special session.
All right, moving on to special session. And that Eon,
Jesus,
Special Taxing District.
where is that?
You need to recess and then call it, don't you?
Special session, yeah. You need to recess as a young conversation and then call it meeting, special meeting.
Good morning, Chairman Porteous, members of the board. I'm Ian McGahee, County Administrator. This morning, I'm pleased to present the final budget for Yuma County for fiscal year 2023-24. I'll provide a brief overview presentation, and then Chief Financial Officer Gil Villegas and Budget Director Tony Struck will be available for interactive modeling and long-term impacts if the board so wishes. I skipped one. We're at the end of many months of work culminating in today's combined budget and truth in taxation public hearing, followed by adoption of the final budget for the new fiscal year, which of course begins on July 1st. There's really nothing in here that you haven't seen before, so I will be brief. This chart summarizes all funds for which the county is responsible with final appropriations for the next fiscal year compared to the current year's budget. The general fund reflects an increase in reserves that we'll discuss in more detail momentarily. Special revenue includes the jail district, health district, library district, and flood control districts, as well as all grant funds. The debt service increase is due to the higher debt service on the 2022 bond issuance. And capital projects includes funding for major multi-year projects, as well as several buildings, including the home of the new Yuma County Administrative Services across the street, the health district building remodel, and more. And internal service funds, which includes ITS computer lifecycle management, workers' comp insurance, county health insurance, the ASRS revolving fund, liability insurance, and the fleet vehicle replacement program. Our major fund of note is the general fund. Revenue categories for the general fund are shown here. The largest three sources of revenue are shown at the top: county property tax, state shared sales tax, and the county sales tax. As you can see, there's been a sizable increase in both state shared sales tax and county sales tax of nearly 12% above this year's adopted budget. General fund uses are categorized as expenditures, which include personnel and related expenses, supplies and services, vehicles, equipment, and contingencies, transfers out to other funds, and fund balance reserves. The final fund balance for the general fund are shown here. As you know, it's important to keep a healthy fund balance in case of emergency or reduction of revenues during the course of the fiscal year, so the county can continue to provide services to the community. Again, for this fiscal year, we're recommending an additional 5% as a recession contingency for each major fund as a prudent approach for any potential economic downturn.
We should call it the Inflationary Protection Act.
Protection, yes.
You like to pick different names for things, I see.
Well, you know, recession thing sounds really bad. The Inflationary Protection, or Recession Protection Fund, yeah.
Bottom line, we're
Not happy
protected.
with anything.
I want to name it county.
County.
County,
County.
County Inflationary Protection Act.
This slide shows the total number of full-time equivalent positions in the final budget compared to our current fiscal year budget. This includes the technology bailiff for Superior Court, just approved in the consent agenda. So overall, the final budget includes a net increase of 1.95 FTEs from all funds compared to the current year.
So basically, the county grew by 2 people.
Correct.
That's a big growth factor.
As you know, this budget recommends a nearly 9-cent decrease in the general fund tax rate. The library recommendation is an increase for operations of just over 1 cent, offset by a reduction of the same amount in library debt service, netting to a 0 change overall for library. Final budget also includes an increase of just under 9 cents in the tax rate for the flood control district. So that means overall, there is no increase to the combined property tax rate for all funds.
Yeah, just before you leave that, the reason we're having a truth and taxation hearing is because no matter what we do, based on the increase of value in some properties, the taxes will go up. But it won't be because there's a tax rate change. It would be because the appraisal of the valuation, the valuations will increase.
That's exactly correct, Supervisor.
All right. Just want to make sure, because every time somebody asks me why we have a truth and taxation hearing, I have to explain it isn't because we increase the tax rate. It's because your taxes will increase based upon bonds you approve for the schools or bonds, or just simply your house valuation.
That's exactly
appraisal.
right.
Okay, want to make sure.
And in fact, this chart shows the board's prudent approach to taxation over the last 15 years. You'll see in the blue columns the levy that the board has approved compared to the maximum levy allowed, shown by the red line. So as you can see, the board has adopted a levy well below the allowable amount for the past 11 years. In fact, the last time the county increased the total tax rate was in fiscal year 2017-18. This year, we're seeing a reduction, of course, in general fund tax rate in order to offset the need to increase the flood control rate, which had been reduced last year. So overall, the total tax rate is flat compared to last year, and in fact remains the lowest total tax rate in 9 years. Here we see the overall property tax impact, including the general fund, flood district, and library district operations and debt service. You'll see that for a home with an average 2022 limited property value increasing by the maximum allowed of 5% to $129,990, there's an increase of $4.14 to the general fund property tax paid over the current year. Due to the need to add funds to flood control district and the corresponding rate increase for that district, a taxpayer with an increase in limited property value of that 5% will see an increase of approximately $12.38 for flood control. And the library rates together are flat, of course, compared to this year. But with the property value increase of 5%, there would be an increase of roughly $5.46. So altogether, there would be an overall increase due to the valuation increases of $21.98, with the total rates remaining the same as the current year, and a nearly 9-cent reduction in the general fund tax rate.
And that is assuming that your property will go up, which it's not a given. There's been a tendency for property values to remain the same, and some of them are actually pushing back a little. So we're all assuming that there's going to be an increase in valuation, but that's not simply the way the market works. The way the market works is based on the demand, based on the cost. Affordability is just not very, very good in Yuma County. So there's a possibility your appraisal this year may not increase. You may actually not feel that, but it's, again, just a possibility, and we have to deal with the possibility. And all the sales tax numbers that we're getting, everything we seem to be getting in the market seems to indicate to me that the market is overheated anyway, and that there isn't yet signs that inflation is going down to the levels that we need it to be, and that appraisals will keep going up. It's not a given. The market in Phoenix is starting to show some cracks. And as I always said, we're in Yuma County. It takes time for things to reach us, but ups and downs in the market will reach us sometime. All right.
Mr. Chairman, to that point, I had a meeting with an architect over the weekend, and one of the nation's largest subsidiaries of Berkshire Hathaway, and they are now projecting out, just based upon demand. Architects are saying that they're getting caught up, that they have minimal work coming in, and they see a clear path to a slowdown just based upon that particular area of data from architects, design, etc.
All right. And I just want to make, Ian, that 2198 or that increase, that's county only. Schools, colleges,
cities,
any other district or something that's totally separate from the county. So
Excellent point, and leads perfectly into the final slide,
Well, that money is like,
which is how the property tax dollars are spent. So this graphic shows the breakdown of what a typical taxpayer might see on their property tax bill. And as you mentioned, Chairman, the Yuma County General Fund, Library, and Flood Control Districts combined represent a comparatively smaller portion compared to education-related taxes. So it's just a part of the overall tax impact.
I need the slide.
Leave that up for a second. Let me take a
Can you email
Yeah.
that slide to us?
Yeah, that is a good way
In a
for
good
people to
format?
look at it.
Thank you.
You bet.
And, Mr. Chairman, could we put that in the newspaper?
Don't worry, Mara is listening to us. She's going to
Yeah.
put that in the newspaper.
Thank you, Mara.
I'll make sure she gets a copy of it.
Okay.
The slice of a dollar.
All right.
Okay, so that does conclude the final budget presentation. This is a responsible, physically sustainable budget that allows the county to effectively provide services to the community in the coming year. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, or we could invite Chief Financial Officer Gil Villegas up for his interactive modeling.
Can you back it up to the one where it's the total budget, the 500 and something dollars? I mean, 507. The one that shows, yeah.
There, right there.
That one. So the adopted one is for 501. And the final, I thought, that's last year, say.
Last year.
2023, we're 23, 24.
537, yes.
Yeah, that was the adopted one last year. This is the final this year. And, you know, when people look at budgets, they see numbers and, you know, they want an explanation of the numbers. And really, if we have to explain, we went up $70 million. It sounds like a lot, but there's been a lot of one-time projects that are included on this budget that need to be a little bit more explained a little bit more. We really didn't go up in revenue. Well, we did. Actually, we did. It's just that it's not the normal expectation. The normal expectation is that the county will grow at a very slower pace. This has been the result of a lot of assistance from a lot of different sources that have come in. I mean, if we just talk about Highway 95 or if we talk about any other major roadways in the county that have been assisted through the legislature, that would be, if you start adding those numbers, you'll realize that the $70 million that it went up, $76 million that it went up, isn't because of additional tax revenues in as much as projects that are getting done through ARPA or through some other means. So we're adopting a budget of $577 million, $7.5 million. It looks like a 15% increase, but in reality, if you look at the way that this is distributed, you will find out in some places you just grew very little. In other places, you grew a lot. All right. You want a motion? Oh, well, if you don't want a motion, I'll remain.
It doesn't ask for a motion. Do we need a motion?
Yes, we need to have a motion to adopt the
Yes,
tax
Chairman,
rate.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the budget as presented.
Well, do we have to adopt the tax rates first? I mean, the different things? It's a roll call? Well, I'll second the motion, so it'll be bipartisan.
We need to have the public hearing.
Mr.
Public hearing first, right? We'll have to do the public hearing, open up the
Yes, oh,
public
yeah.
hearing first.
You too quick, man.
All right, I'll open the.
Look at the buzzer. You stuck your head out there. I pulled it. I pulled it. Yeah. Well,
I'll open it to the public. Public hearing. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Jonathan made the motion.
I made the motion.
I'll
There's a
second the motion.
and a second to approve.
My only question is, weren't we
To
supposed to
adopt.
like adopt the tax rates, make the, you know, some in there, something in there. Is it just adopting the budget, Ian? Is it just a single motion to adopt the budget, or is it individual motions?
County
to-
annual budget for fiscal year.
Single
There's
motion?
a couple resolutions.
Oh, wait, so.
Would you like me to read the entire thing?
I think that'd be prudent.
Okay.
Conduct.
Mr.
Adopt resolution.
Chairman,
You move.
I move that we take action regarding the Yuma County annual budget for fiscal year 2023/24 as follows. We've held a public hearing. We adopt the resolution number 2023, a joint resolution of the county, Yuma County Flood Control District, Public Health District, Jail District, Library District, and all improvement and special districts adopting the Yuma County budget for fiscal year 2023/24, and adopt resolution 2023-23, a joint resolution of the county, Yuma County Flood Control District, Public Health District, Jail District, and Library District, adjusting employee compensation and program funding.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve.
Tony, you have to read it all.
As recommended. All those in favor say aye. We'll do a roll call.
Supervisor Pancrazzi? Supervisor Simmons,
Aye.
Chairman Porteous.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
But we didn't get to vote, huh? Well, I guess we made the
You
motion
made the
first.
motion, so you-
Yeah. No, I think that the way you conduct it is first the guy that made the motion gets to vote, then I get to vote, then
That's how
the
we
rest
got
of
it
you get to
passed.
vote. But
I mean,
you can still make a motion and vote no.
Okay, I will start from the top.
I was wondering why it was first. Go ahead.
Supervisor Lyons,
Aye.
Supervisor Reyes,
Let me explain that. No, I'm just kidding. Aye.
Supervisor Pancrazzi,
Aye.
Supervisor Simmons,
Aye.
and Chairman Porteous.
well, it still passes, huh?
Yeah, but you don't need your vote anymore, man.
You've been hanging around Tony too long.
All right.
Say aye.
He just.
I did. I
Yeah.
did say aye. I did. Yeah.
We didn't hear like a whole.
No, you know, I
Aye.
didn't hear that aye. You need to say aye.
All right. Moving on to
On a side note, is our budget bigger than the cities of Yuma? The city of Yuma?
No. No, I believe they're waiting until July. That's the.
No. It's a bigger in terms of amount, the money.
I think at this point, there's no way to know until they finalize. I'm not sure.
They
what
approved the
tentative
tentative budget, didn't they? No? They haven't approved the tentative budget? Which is? Oh. It's bigger. Ours is bigger. Size matters. Ours is bigger.
I want to know at what point did we lose control of this meeting?
Well, Jonathan left. You should have stopped him from leaving.
We'll go ahead and move on to discussion, legislative issues. Alejandro? I'm going to ask Tony not to ask.
Refrain from making comments about the border.
Take his speaker away from him. Take his mic away.
Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs for Yuma County. I'll be brief because somebody else already spoke to you about legislation.
Oh, yes.
So, as you know, the work of the legislature ended on Tuesday, June the 13th, without a motion to adjourn for the session. The regular session of the legislature will remain open until July 31st to allow the Senate to work on gubernatorial nominations. It is expected that the legislature will close the session when it returns without passing any additional legislation. Now, in some good news, HB 2669, Prohibition Biosolids Land Application, sponsored by Representative Dunn, was signed into law this past Friday, June the 16th, by Governor Hobbs after making it through the legislature with complete bipartisan support. A little bit of background for the public. Yuma County has long received resident complaints regarding the proximity of land-applied biosolids and domestic septic, specifically complaints concerning smell and flies. So HB 2669 is not an all-encompassing solution to Yuma County's issues. It represents an important step forward in the existing conversation, and I'd like to mention two specific changes the law creates. The first one is the legislation enshrines existing ADQ biosolids pathogen reduction rules in statute, requiring, and I quote, any land application of a substance that contains sewage or septic to comply with the rules established, I end quote. This enshrines in statute the requirement that biosolids be subject to one of a menu of enumerated treatments until the density of fecal coliform and salmonella bacteria are within specified ranges. The second change is that the bill also requires that, and I quote, a biosolid combined with a solid waste shall be regulated as a solid waste, end quote. This ensures that if organic residuals from commercial or industrial sources are mixed in with biosolids and subsequently brought to management companies, the mixture is treated as a solid waste rather than permitted to be applied to land. This is an issue that ADQ has identified at some Yuma County sites in the past. I'm also pleased to report that progress has been seen in Yuma County, specifically with increased and improved stakeholder collaboration because of the conversations engendered by this legislation. Specifically, Yuma County staff has seen improved biosolids management processes from local companies, such as the removal of a large open-air lagoon where biosolids were left, and also increased responsiveness from state agencies. The next steps
The bill sponsor Representative Dunn has committed to convening a group of stakeholders, including Yuma County, biosolids management companies, the ag community, and other interested parties outside of session to discuss best management practices and potential paths forward. I'm sorry, I forgot to move the slide. On federal level, on June 15th, the U.S. Department of the Interior announced that $578.8 million will be distributed to counties in 2023 through the Payments in Lieu of Taxes PIL program. Because local governments cannot tax the property values or products derived from federal lands, PIL payments are necessary to support essential local government services such as education, emergency services, transportation, infrastructure, law enforcement, and healthcare. Yuma County will be getting more than $4.2 million this coming year, while the state of Arizona will be getting $43.5 million from PILT. It is important to know that NACO will continue to urge the administration and members of Congress to support a long-term sustainable solution to fully fund the PIL program for fiscal year 2024 and into the future. On the International Border Affairs update, on June 27th, the U.S. General Services Administration, in partnership with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, will be hosting a groundbreaking ceremony for the start of the San Luis One Port's modernization and expansion project. And some other good news, in the first quarter of 2023, Arizona's total two-way trade with Mexico reached $5.3 billion, which is an increase of 11.7% compared to the same period last year.
Say that again, please.
Sure. The first quarter of 2023, Arizona's total two-way trade with Mexico reached $5.3 billion, which is an increase of 11.7% compared to last year.
Thank you.
Same period last year. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Alejandro? Thank you, Alejandro.
Oh, I have one.
go ahead.
Prop 400, have they approved that yet at the legislature?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pancratzi, the legislature did approve a version of it, but it was immediately, governor's office immediately communicated the governor's wish to veto that bill.
So they're going to have to redo it again?
Right, and that's probably the reason they're staying in session and might bring a different version of that proposition to the governor.
Because
among other things.
Well, I know, but that will really impact us as far as HERF funds if that's not approved. So.
A question. Ian, you sent us a notice about Highway 95 resurfacing and I think the Tacna Mohawk, a section of road somewhere out there. One was a $33 million allocation, the other one's a $20-some million allocation. Where is that standing at? Was it approved or is it something that they have in plans to do?
It's one-time funding.
The one-time funding, I know, but is it split into 3 years? Is it? How?
Yeah, my understanding is it was approved. I'm not sure how the periodic allocation of those funds will be.
So your understanding is that it was approved, it's not one of those items under discussion, it's been approved and.
We clarified that with YMPO Executive Director Crystal Figueroa, and she did confirm that it was approved.
Good.
So that would finish up 95 all the way up to Aberdeen or up to Martinez?
Yeah, no, to Aberdeen.
Aberdeen.
And then on the 95 south, it'll start from San Luis to, I believe, to Gadsden. And then the second phase is from Gadsden to Somerton or Pass, and then it's gonna be in 3 phases.
That's what I thought. They just wanted to make sure that it was already a done deal, that it wasn't just being discussed. So it is in the budget.
That's what I'm told. Yes, sir.
I'll hold you to it.
Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, that it's been the communication we've received that it's been approved and that next year's bucket, will be even bigger. So we can go back and ask.
Yes, making sure. regarding the opening of the construction, the opening of the border crossing, you make sure that you guys make arrangements to be there. I won't be in town, so just make sure the chairman and yourself are.
I think I heard it was by invitation only.
I know.
Yeah, I heard that you weren't invited. No, just kidding.
I'll be thinking about you when I'm in Cancun, you know, thinking about you guys. Really, really thinking about, you know, the invitation. Which sharks? The ones here or the ones over there?
Ones on there.
Thank you, Alejandro.
I know you have a really good relationship with the mayor, I hear.
During events.
One of the few.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I attended the LEPC meeting, and I attended and spoke at the Women's Empowerment Conference that was put on by the Healing Journey down at MLK, which was very well attended, and I enjoyed very much. I attended the Arizona at Work, the local workforce development board meeting. I did a webinar that was recommended by the governor's office on sober living housing and local governments. We don't have an issue, but there are some other counties, places around the state that are having some real issues with sober living facilities. I went to the Juneteenth celebration at Carver Park, which was very well attended and which was so very well organized. Beverly, Cade, thank you very much. You did a great job, you and your team. And I worked with a large number of constituents concerning, or dealt with a large number of constituents with the proposal of the solar plant. So, and that's about it.
Well, Supervisor Lanes.
Mostly dealing with constituents' concerns over solar, and then still a few residual calls expressing concern about the the hazardous waste facility that's proposed that was withdrawn. And that's about it.
Didn't we do a continuance for the hazardous waste?
Yes.
Not a withdrawal.
Supervisor Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah, attended the Walton Mohawk Irrigation District Board meeting, had an election advisory board meeting, went to Walton Town Council meeting, numerous meetings reference to the solar plant with people out east and everywhere else. Numerous meetings reference to Antelope High School and some issues going on there, and then several other different issues throughout my district.
I want to thank Julio and the chairman for writing up the board director for me for the Wednesday meeting of the Vision Group where he showed up. Now, I expressed the same dissatisfaction with the times, take people across. His explanation was that they're necessary for safety purposes. I, again, explained to him what my feelings were. That meeting went really, I thought it was decent, so he sent a letter the next day. I'm going to read the letter really quick so that everybody will be aware. We had a meeting, we talked about the long lines. He said he was going to try to do everything he could to minimize that situation, and then he sent this letter. Please be advised that the San Luis Port of Entry modernization and expansion project is now underway. This is a great and welcome opportunity for our community, but as the project advances, challenges will arise, and travel delays should be and need to be expected. The Port of San Luis is working diligently to minimize the impact to the traveling public and ask the travelers, port users, stakeholders remain patient and plan accordingly for potentially elevated wait times and increased traffic. The area formerly known as Friendship Park is currently being cleared in preparation for new construction. Most travel lanes feeding into the Port of Entry and into Mexico should remain accessible. The number of lanes for vehicles arriving from Mexico may be dependent on construction obstacle changes and the need for traffic flow rerouting for construction safety requirements. There may be also be temporary delays for outbound traffic, U.S. to Mexico, as work equipment moves in and out of the area that the former of the former Friendship Park, San Luis Plaza Drive, Archibald Street, and Swastika Street. CBP looks forward to providing outstanding service to our community and working in unison with our partners and stakeholders as we move forward with this welcome challenge. We thank you for your patience and cooperation. John Schwan. This is kind of like, you know, having a conversation with someone who says, I'm going to work on it, and then you get this letter basically saying you should expect delays and you should adapt to it. I think things have improved. I don't know if it's a result of all the commotion that was created over the lanes. I mean, it seems to have gotten better. I think there will be some delays caused by the construction, but I think they can be minimized. Friendship Park has always been there. It's a contained part of the facility. I think for a while we need to, we need to expect some possible delays, but I mean, the fact that he acknowledged that those statements, Alejandro, you made and Mayor Porcia's made, to me means that they're paying attention, and hopefully it'll help, because there's ways to do these things without causing undue problems. Other ports are doing it, so I don't see why it can't be done here in San Luis. That's it.
Thank you. I met with the Mexican consul, gave him a tour of our building here, and 1091 or 102. I also met with Mayor Rydell from San Luis and Mayor Naya. Had a pretty interesting meeting with them. Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. Attended the Elections Advisory Committee meeting, Greater Yuma Port Authority Strategic Planning Session, GYEDC Board of Directors Retreat, Arizona County Insurance Pool meeting, County Managers Association meeting, Local Workforce Development Board. I also met with Mexican Consul Dulce Maria Valle Alvarez and met with YMPO, Yuma Metropolitan Planning Organization. And Gil Villegas did just mention to me that the city of Yuma's tentative budget came in at $473 million compared to our $577 million.
I knew it.
All right.
Oh, you. If he was up.
All right.
Adjourn special session or executive.
Oh, yeah, we'll move into.
We're gonna need to move everybody out or go upstairs to have that special session.